comment, clap back. No, this is not like any of the other comment clapbacks I've done. What? Because I actually really respect and like what this person said. In fact, I feel like they made a good enough rebuttal to what I was saying that I need to address it and just really kind of give this person credit for doing such a decent response. I don't know if they have any like prior experience when it comes to debate, but it sure seems like it because they managed to be respectful, disagree with me, provide evidence, and most importantly, if you want to win a debate, actually understand and respect where I'm coming from so that they could approach it and respond logically. But before I get into that, there might be a few weeks coming up where I have to cut down the amount of videos I put out a week. I do one a day currently. I might be changing things up quite a bit, pretty drastically, so I can't make any promises that my schedule will be as consistent for about, honestly, the next month, but after that, we should be good to go. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into this comment, which was a response to my recent King Killer Chronicles video. Hey Dan, please don't call me Dan, or Danny, or D, or Dan the Man, all that. That's not like me being angry at this comment, just in general. My name is Daniel. It's not Dan, it's not Danny, it's not Denai, it's not Leonad, it's not Neil, which I've had some people tell me that. That is not short for Daniel. Want to get that clarified. My name is Daniel. Sorry, that's just a little pet peeve of mine. Hey Daniel, before I get into my thoughts, which are not horrible, here is a link where Pat talks about the unreliable narrator, which I don't believe to be real. Yeah, if you read the link supplied, Patrick Rothfuss, essentially, they put forward the idea of Kvothe being an unreliable narrator, and Patrick Rothfuss goes like, if that's how you want to interpret it, it sure could be that way, which is essentially what I said in my video. I think me and the commenter here are pretty much in agreement that, sure, read it that way if you want to, but don't put it on others. The direct quote being, "It is very fair to wonder how much of this is real, how much of this is true. Unfortunately, any answer that I give to that would be destructive to the story." Essentially, my interpretation being, anything I say one way or the other hurts everyone's interpretation, so let's just let people have what they will, and I actually really agree with that. Pat's making a good point here. It's a book, it's art, everyone interprets themselves. Why am I moving my hand so much? First off, fair play for sharing your thoughts. People can be brutal about the stuff they love. I agree with you about the romance in the book. It's rather odd. I have no problems with a 15-year-old boy like Kvothe, particularly after his childhood, struggling, opening himself up, and being in a relationship with someone. Fair counterpoint. The fact that Kvothe is 15 makes all of this fairly acceptable if we're viewing it through his eyes, but this brings up the issue of narration. Are we having this story be told to us, therefore filtered through an adult who's then having it told to this guy who's writing it down? Or is the story being told, but we are actually jumping back into young Kvothe's eyes, and therefore it's not filtered through adult Kvothe? And if it's not filtered through adult Kvothe, that pretty much completely obliterates the unreliable narrator theory. Although I guess you could argue it's still there because we're seeing it through a 15-year-old's eyes, but I don't think a lot of the things people claim would be in the unreliable narrator theory would actually fall under that. What makes it odd is adult Kvothe is narrating us through the story and doesn't make much mention of being useless with women. After his time with I'm bad with names, and he becomes a master of sex, no one's favorite part, he likens women to instruments who just need to be played properly. The book's representation of women isn't sexist at all. Yes, we are reminded of Fella's tits one too many times, but Pat seems to have another problem with his female characters, which I'm a little confused what you're saying here. You're saying it's not sexist. You're just saying that maybe it's because the character is this way. That's just the sexism of this point of view, which that's fine, and I can actually accept that. That's one of the things I've kind of gone back and forth on with Lightbringer. There's lots of debate on whether or not that series is sexist. There's people making great points on both sides, whether it's just character perspective and the way society is, or the author's kind of pushing something forward here. It's all, you know, up for debate and interpretation, but you seem to make points pro it's sexist and then say it's not, and you finish off by saying it's just a problem Pat has writing female characters. And if someone struggles to write female characters, that's something I have a hard time sympathizing for. I really do not get why people think that writing for the opposite sex seems so difficult when I have yet to encounter a female author who cannot write male characters. You think it would be a two-way street if this thing was real, and it seems just not to be. I think there's just a lot of kind of socially awkward male authors out there who put some of their fantasy stuff That's in their heads, in their books, and we all have to deal with that. It's not a huge deal, and some of it can actually be kind of fun or engaging if it's handled correctly. Apart from one or two, all the women of the series are on some weird pedestal. They all seem to be pretty and have no irredeemable or negative traits. The men get a full range of characterization. Pat seems to take strong female character too literally. Of course, this is a first-person story, so we get to know Kvothe rather well. Again, I agree with what you're saying here, and I don't think putting women on a pedestal is not sexist. In fact, I think it is. Treating any group of people and just assigning something to them because of the designation they are that is not just like a physical part of them is kind of wrong and discriminatory. You shouldn't assume things about black people, you shouldn't assume things about women, gays, bis, straights, Klingons. Just don't make assumptions. Putting them on a pedestal is almost a little worse to me because it seems almost lazy. Like, okay, I see there's the problem with sexism. I could address it and just write decently down the line, or I could just go the opposite route and make them all perfect so I don't really have to deal with this and I can shuffle it to the side. It's at least how it kind of seems to me. He's not a Mary Sue. Yes, he is excellent at many things, but that happens with people every now and then and again in real life. Rey in The Force Awakens is more in line with Mary Sue, excellent at everything she tries, solves her own problems by herself, and is completely morally centered. Even in The Last Jedi, after she has failed to save Kylo and learn her parents aren't important, she just bounces back and goes flying into the Falcon. I like this. Fair point, there is a very good argument that Rey is a Mary Sue. I actually bring that up in my Mary Sue video. I think there are aspects of her that you can argue either way. I think she's less of a Mary Sue in The Force Awakens, and Rian Johnson, who seems to be heavily influenced by anime, but not like the good parts of anime, just the bad parts, makes her more into a Mary Sue in that story. Kvothe reminds me of a phrase, book smart, not real world smart. In WMF, Elodin, who we all know to be weird, a bit sus, remarks he has forgotten his keys standing outside what seems to be his apartment. So Kvothe just picks the lock thinking this will impress the master without thinking of whom he is talking to. Other clear non-Mary Sue moments and traits are he mentally breaks down and becomes homeless for years, he cheats in his admission exam, he is completely arrogant, and makes powerful enemies within the first week of being at university. He has a narcissistic need to do things by himself, and of course is self-mythologizing constantly, maybe in hopes of a Chandrian noticing him. Rothfuss in the first book was keen on playing with the tropes of fantasy storytelling. Let's look at Harry Potter, which Pat loves to knock. I think it's hilarious Pat thinks he has the grounds to knock Harry Potter, but that's just coming from me. Going back to what you're saying here, having things bad happen to a character, that's not, in my opinion, and again, Mary Sue seems to be something that the direct definition of no one can fully agree on. Yes, there's like the dictionary.com one, but we all know how rarely those definitions actually get followed in day-to-day life. But let's just look at that dictionary definition and use it real quickly. From Wikipedia, a Mary Sue is an idealized and seemingly perfect fictional character. Often this character is recognized as an author's insert or wish fulfillment. That's the definition I typically lean on more heavily, and yes, bad things can happen to Mary Sue characters. Let's go back to Rey there, where she was abandoned and left alone on this planet, bad things happening to her. She's constantly put down, taken prisoner. Oh, these bad things are happening, but just like Kvothe, she solves them and is immediately kind of bounced back on top. And yes, Kvothe also just kind of bounces back on top and is just handling himself just fine. It's interesting you choose Rey when she's actually a character who has many parallels in how she is written, especially in The Last Jedi, to Kvothe. For example, Rey also breaks down and needs to be rescued at times. Chewbacca comes in, saving her life. But once again, you can still make the argument she's Mary Sue from all the things that go well for her. I would argue less of a Mary Sue than Kvothe, because many of the things she succeeds at, she's able to actually succeed at because of logical caveats that happen within the story. For example, beating Kylo Ren because he was shot in the mother stomach, which a lot of people seem to fail at realizing he's severely wounded, and if you're severely wounded, people who are weaker than you could probably beat you in a fight, especially since he just got done also finishing off another fight against a trained stormtrooper. Then there's an argument that Finn's not a trained stormtrooper because he's sanitations, which I hate that in the movie, but he's clearly also still fighting on the battlefield, which we see from the opening of The Force Awakens, meaning he is still somewhat of a combatant. So Kylo's been bleeding out for at least 10 to 20 minutes after being shot in the stomach, so yeah, Rey, someone who previously demonstrated she's been learning to defend herself on this planet, could actually knock him down. That's actually a logical progression of events. You could say it's too much, and that's why the argument of Mary Sue could be made there for The Force Awakens, which people were making that argument since that movie came out, even before The Last Jedi. But I really don't think it was as big a problem there. More so it came up in The Last Jedi. Kvothe, on the other hand, it's never really explained why he's so great at everything. Yeah, he was an orphan and he should have picked up some skills, and those are great, but I don't get why he's suddenly also the best songwriter, the best instrument player, the best jokester, the best at studying, the best at work ethic, all these things which seem kind of, okay, you can kind of get a lot of that from your parents and stuff, but then when you're an orphan, a lot of that would go away unless you just have an eidetic memory. Maybe that's part of his character. But I'd say they're on almost exactly the same level when it comes to flaws in Mary Sue-dom. And I'm not saying both aren't Mary Sue's, I'm saying they both are, just maybe Rey's a little bit less. Oh god, I'm tired of Star Wars. Both Harry and Kvothe are orphan boys who go to a magical school to learn to become wizards. Both have representations and noticeable physical traits. Harry, rather traditionally, is brought into a world he doesn't understand, and while his heart is in the right place, knows nothing of magic and must learn from friends and mentors. And so we don't have to think about it, he is rich with wizard bucks. Kvothe is the reverse. He is already incredibly knowledgeable of the world he is in, but poor. Harry during the first year at Hogwarts is fighting with Voldemort, while Kvothe's main obstacle was student debt. I actually like that. Being smart is all what Kvothe has going for him in life. In NOTW, Name of the Wind, he was such a bad run of luck when he was playing in the Eowyn, I was certain somehow it would all turn bad. Basically, being clever doesn't automatically mean Mary Sue status. Agree, but also disagree. You have to understand Mary Sue is wish fulfillment, or kind of insert the author. Again, having bad things happen to you does not disqualify you from being a Mary Sue. It's how you resolve them and how quickly, and oh, it just kind of makes you look even better because it wasn't a real challenge, it was just easy for you to get rid of it, which kind of everything for Kvothe is. It's all just, oh, he's smarter than his school rival, and immediately obliterates him in everything they challenge each other with, to the point where the school rival pretty much has to resort to murder? Which Kvothe kind of easily handles. Or being better at school and just studying harder and having all these traits, which, wow, look how smart he is, gee golly good gosh. Or actually just having women fondle all over him, even though, as you propose, he's this awkward 15-year-old boy who has a bad view of women. So what you're kind of saying here doesn't add up entirely. Apart from the relationship stuff, I find the rest of the series incredibly top-notch. I do too. Again, like I said, I actually think the main plot in King Killer and a lot of the world building and setting is really well done. Apart from the relationship stuff, I find the rest of the series to be incredibly top-notch. All what you have heard before, prose, world building, says something to have read 1,600 pages and find nothing much in the way of the main story, but still riveted. From a classical storytelling perspective, it is crazy. The actual important story, which would work well in the film format, is likely book 3 and the present day stuff. A script writer would read these books and likely struggle to adapt them without making major changes. I do not envy that writer. I disagree with that, but that's a completely subjective, pointless argument to have. I'd say in summary though, don't dislike something because it is not what you expected / wanted to be. Nothing in my reviews hints that that's why I didn't like King Killer Chronicles at all. Nothing I said falls in line with that. I don't like it because of the reasons I listed and the fact that those reasons clash with my taste. So yeah, that's why I didn't like it. I see this in your Dresden review. You seem to just want it to be a noir tale with a wizard, and if it does something else, it's a bad thing. Well, yeah. This is, you make two different points here. One, you suggest that I make any kind of subversion to be a bad thing, which I disagree with entirely. I like subversion and new different things. There wasn't anything that I really was surprised by or completely did not expect in King Killer Chronicles. There were just aspects of the story that I did not like. Mostly I found the incredibly cringy romances to be so. I'm gonna get so many dislikes now that I think about it, just for stating that there are some redeeming logical explanations for Rey's achievements, because as f***ing made the mistake of mentioning Star Wars on YouTube. But your second point about the Dresden Files, I just found this aspect of the series to be very charming, the noir detective stuff, and I really like that, and the author's taking it away. It's not the fact that it's not what I expected that makes me not like it, it's the fact that it's a feature of the series I enjoyed that's going away. It's like if Lord of the Rings, you're following this epic fantasy about the ring, and suddenly the ring was taken away. Oh no, I wanted that. I liked that feature of the story, but you're just removing it. It's not the unexpectedness of you taking it I don't like, it's just the fact that it's a feature I enjoyed that it's gone now that makes me kind of like it less. The action of taking has nothing to do with it. It's the feature you're removing. Unexpectedly removing things and changing directions in the story is something I enjoy quite a bit. If you can surprise me, more power to you. As I just said in my Storm of Swords review, being manipulated by an author is something I enjoy incredibly. If it feels like I'm being outsmarted, and I like that a lot. George R. R. Martin did that with making me like Jaime Lannister. I should not like this guy. He's bad. It's a subversion of what I expected. I did not expect to like Jaime, but I'm digging the fact that I am. Sister Diddler has some charm. Anyway, I miss having debates, and this comment was finally one I found that I was like, it's respectful, they make good points, I want to make counterpoints, and now I'm opening the floodgates for a bunch of people to try really hard to leave similar comments to try and get me to debate them. Just to let you know, this is most likely a one-time thing, and it was just kind of an exercise scratching that debate itch for me, and I had a lot of fun doing it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the Patreon if you want to support what I do here, and have a good one, y'all. Peace.